This week on Jersey Matters, the Project Veritas tape hits the New Jersey governor's race like a bombshell. We get reaction from both sides. One of the oldest colleges in the country may close. We speak with President MARCHETA Evans, who is fighting for Bloomfield College's survival. On the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, weatherman Nick Pittman takes a look back and forward. And just in time for Halloween, a Jersey jaunt to the Paranormal Museum. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte with only days to go before the New Jersey election. A bombshell video emerges in the race for governor between Democratic Governor Phil Murphy and Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli. The conservative Project Veritas, led by provocateur James O'Keefe, records two Phil Murphy campaign workers talking about vaccine mandates.
Lo va a hacer, pero no podía hacerlo antes de la elección. Because they're into all that shit. My rights, my shit.
Do you think he'll do something about that, like the vaccine mandates and stuff?
I think so. I think the problem is right now, because it's election season, he's not going to have people say, like, we're going to have a mandate now.
We get reaction to the video from both the New Jersey Republican and Democratic parties. We begin with Philip Swabinski, spokesperson for the New Jersey Democratic Party. Phil, thanks for joining us. I want to talk about the Project Veritas tape that has been on the national news. It shows allegedly two members of the Murphy campaign saying in a secret recording that they were recorded without knowing it, that the Murphy campaign, Governor Murphy, is going to mandate vaccines after he is elected, but he's keeping that from the public right now. What is your reaction generally? And then I want to ask some specifics about it.
Well, thank you, Larry, for having me on. I think our reaction generally is that it's really unfortunate that Jack Ciattarelli continues to align himself with these extreme right-wing groups like Project Veritas. You know, it really reminds us of his appearance at a Stop the Steal rally early on in this campaign when he was out there questioning the results of the 2020 election. And he's consistently sided with these extreme groups over and over again. And Project Veritas has been thoroughly debunked as an organization that tries to perpetuate misinformation. And I think that what Jack Ciattarelli should do is join us in denouncing the way that Project Veritas lured two women staffers out of our headquarters into a dark parking garage to confront them and scare them.
The things that happened in the parking lot I want to get into in a second, and I know that's separate from the video, and I want to talk specifically about the video for a moment. You can confirm that both the people on the video work for the Murphy campaign.
One is a consultant in the Murphy campaign, and one works for the Forward 2021, the state party coordinated campaign.
If they weren't recorded secretly, would they be allowed to talk about policies like that by the Murphy campaign publicly?
I think that that wouldn't exactly be in the purview of their job. But I think, again, like we're looking at something where you have a surreptitiously, secretly recorded tape that who knows how it could have been selectively edited. Project Veritas has a well-earned reputation for taking things out of context, for doctoring videos. I think this is an organization that has zero credibility.
Do you believe that the video was doctored?
I think it's obvious that it was selectively edited, yes. I mean, it omits any context of what the staffers were asked. It clearly doesn't present the full picture of the interaction.
I guess the most important question is the veracity of what was said. Is that the plan of the Murphy campaign, to mandate vaccines after he is elected?
Well, I mean, first of all, the campaign has nothing to do with policies that are set by the governor as an administration on the governmental side.
Well, wait a second. Let me stop you there, Philip, because he's been asked these questions before, and he said that it's not off the table, but it's something that he would consider. Not that he is considering it now, that he would consider. That has been part of the campaign, though. The issues and the questions asked are part of the campaign, are they not?
I think that the issue is really much more something that should be asked to the official governmental side. You're right. The governor has not ruled out anything. As why would he? Because he's always said from the start that he would use any tool at his disposal to deal with this virus, and that's why voters, overwhelmingly trust him on COVID-19. So I think Governor Murphy will make whatever decision is best for the state, as he always has.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that you made that separate from what the campaign is about. Could you explain why? What he may or may not do about vaccines is separate from the campaign?
I'm not totally following.
Well, when I brought up whether that was true or not, what was said, you said that has not been part of the campaign. I'm drawing a distinction between the official governmental side and the campaign side. Like obviously the governor frequently discusses these topics at governmental briefings, at things that he's doing on the official side. What I'm saying is, two campaign workers have nothing to do with setting public health policy for the state. Oh, I understand that. That I get. I thought you were saying that the public, for some reason, wouldn't have a right to know that because it's not part of the campaign. No,
that's not what I meant.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up. Now let's talk about what you're upset about Mr. O'Keefe and the Project Veritas luring, I think we can fairly say that, allegedly luring some of your workers into a parking garage. And then what happened then?
Well, two women who work on the campaign received phone calls that said that their cars had been hit within the parking garage. Obviously, that made them, a little alarmed and put them in a stressful environment. They went down to the garage to see what happened with their cars, and when they emerged from the elevator, they were confronted by a group of men with cameras running at them, harassing them and trying to. I guess do some kind of gotcha journalism moment. And, it was really disturbing. This is, it's something that women, I think as men, it's not something we necessarily think about a lot, but women, deal with safety issues like this all the time, and to have their safety threatened like that while they're just trying to do their job is pretty disgusting.
I think the answer is obvious, but it's important to clarify. There was no damage to their cars. Their cars were not hit.
No, it was a lie and a ruse by O'Keefe and his crew to get them down into the parking lot.
Let's talk about. I think that's enough about the tape for right now, because we're now just a few days away from Election Day. Where do things stand right now?
Well, we're working hard every day. Chairman Leroy Jones, the head of the state Democratic Party, has been going up and down the state with Governor Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Oliver getting out the vote. We're still within the early voting period right now, which is, as you guys know, the first time in state history. So we're working hard to get every vote out. We have, a very robust get out the vote operation focused on early vote, focused on bringing in more vote by mail ballots. There's, quite a few voters of all parties who have not returned their vote by mail ballots. So we're working to get as many Democrats to return their ballots as possible, and then obviously building up until Tuesday, until the big day.
And things have tightened in the polls recently, but you're pretty confident come Election Day?
Yeah, we're confident in the position we're in, but we're running. The governor has said he's running I think he termed it a paranoid campaign. He's running like he's 10 points down, because we want to do everything possible to make sure that he's reelected. It's way too important to the future of the state to allow anybody to go to sleep here and allow somebody like Jack Ciattarelli, who's embraced such right-wing extremism, to get in here. It's too important to the working families in New Jersey to protect the gains that have been made during Governor Murphy's first term and continue to move the state forward. So that's why we're doing everything we can to get people out before Tuesday and then on Tuesday.
All right, Philip, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Larry.
Philip Swabinski, spokesperson for the New Jersey Democratic Party. We get reaction from the Republicans next on Jersey Matters. It is the battle of the Vinces for the state Senate seat in Atlantic County. The race between Democratic Assemblyman Vince Mazzeo and Republican and former Assemblyman Vince Polistina is expected to be one of the closest in the 2021 election. And now more on the Project Veritas tape that shows two campaign staffers for Governor Murphy saying on a secretly recorded tape that the governor plans statewide vaccine mandates after the election. Reaction now from Alex Wilkes, Communications Director for the New Jersey Republican Party. Thanks so much for agreeing to talk to us today. We wanted to get the topic of the day is the Project Veritas tape that came out late in this campaign, right before Election Day. Let me just get a general reaction to start.
Sure. I think that, like everyone watching that tape, we were surprised about what we heard. Basically, we heard a paid advisor to the Murphy campaign saying that Murphy was saving controversial actions like vaccine passports, vaccine mandates until after the election because he was worried that it would hurt his standing with independent voters. Now, he has been dropping some breadcrumbs all throughout the summer by stating, for example, that these types of things, the passports, for example, he said that the Bill de Blasio style passports that are in New York City were on the table, but we have serious concerns about that. I mean, that is something that, first of all, it's incredibly burdensome to our small businesses that have already been completely devastated by this pandemic. 1 out of 3 New Jersey businesses have closed their doors forever as a result of Phil Murphy's lockdowns. And it also disproportionately hurts minority communities who are, less vaccinated than other communities. So, we have a lot of concerns about this, but I think the main thing that we want to gripe with here is the transparency. If Phil Murphy believes so much in these ideas, he should run on them. He shouldn't have to hide them from voters until after Election Day.
I just spoke with someone from the New Jersey Democratic Party, and what they said about the tape is that it was selectively edited, that he has been, Project Veritas and O'Keefe have been debunked in the past, and that they then went to Jack Ciattarelli aligning himself, they claim, once again with a far right-wing organization. What is your response to all of that?
I mean, look, we saw the tape at the same time that everyone else saw it, and one of those things, it's one of those things where you can't unhear what's on the tape. And what is on the tape is an advisor saying that Murphy is withholding key information from voters until after the election. And I think that that is just reprehensible. If he is so proud of these ideas, then he needs to run on them.
They also claim that O'Keefe and his crew made a claim that 2 women that worked for the Murphy campaign, that their cars were hit. They called them and said, you got to get out to the parking garage, your cars are hit. When they got out there, they say they were accosted and harassed, and that the Ciattarelli campaign should denounce that. Are you going to denounce that?
Look, we had nothing to do with the gathering of this videotape evidence. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that anybody should be harassed, but at the same time, the issue here is what we've heard on this videotape now that we are just under a week out from this election. That is the key here. We have learned that Governor Murphy is hiding something from voters because he doesn't think it's palatable enough for them to want to vote on before the election. He needs to come out and address that specifically. He needs to come out and explain exactly what it is he plans to do should he be reelected and what other things he might be hiding from us.
How do you feel about the campaign right now? Where are you standing?
Look, I think that there is a lot of energy out there for Jack. I have been traveling around the state on behalf of the state party, following Jack to various events, and there's a real natural enthusiasm out there. You're seeing it come from all over, from all different walks of life, non-traditional GOP voters in non-traditional places. Jack is truly showing up in places that Republican candidates haven't gone before, going door to door in Elizabeth, visiting shops in Newark. I this summer followed him around Union City in West New York, where he was speaking with Hispanic small business owners and attending the Cuba Libre movement, which Governor Murphy notably did not attend because he was worried about the blowback from progressive radicals. So I think that, Jack is making the effort. He is getting out there and people are responding to that.
The polls have been all over the place, but they have absolutely tightened. They showed Murphy with a 20-point-something lead in the beginning, and that has tightened. We had the Stockton poll a couple of weeks ago that it was within 6 points. But then this Monmouth poll comes out today showing that Governor Murphy is ahead by 11 points. Were you concerned about that?
Look, I think that poll is based on a flawed turnout model, and we're still evaluating it on our end. But in the past, Monmouth has not always gotten it right. They were wrong about 2 key congressional races in Iowa last year. And they were wrong about Congressman Van Drew. According to Monmouth, he would not be a congressman today. He would have lost by 6 points in the last election, when in fact he won by 6 points. So look, we know that the polls are getting increasingly hard, I think, to conduct as, more of the electorate shifts to different sources of information and sources of communication. And there have been real paradigm shifts within the electorate. For example, more South Jersey Democrats, self-identified Democrats, are actually voters who see more common cause with Republican ideas at this point. So I'm not sure that the polls, are in a place to really capture what we're seeing on the ground out there.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And I know you got a lot of work to do by Tuesday, so good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Alex Wilkes, Communications Director for the New Jersey Republican Party. Next on Jersey Matters.
We have a governor's race coming up on Tuesday, but that's not the only thing driving New Jerseyans to the polls this year. We'll have that story coming up next on Jersey Matters.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. We've seen in video across the country of agitated and emotional parents packing school board meetings. And now, in election 2021 in New Jersey, some of those parents are taking their fight to the next level. Here's Jersey Matters' Kimberly Kravitz.
This election year, we are seeing a lot of attention focused on our schools. You've probably seen lawn signs around the neighborhood, or perhaps you have one on your own front lawn.
I want to put the focus back on students' education and keep politics out.
I run by nature. I am running my 20th marathon this year.
Mask mandates and chatter about vaccinating our youth has led to some heated conversation and also an increase in candidates.
I'm worried that these teachers are going to be spending their time policing the masks for Murphy, as opposed to teaching my daughter how to socialize.
So how did school board meetings turn into political playgrounds?
This year it's masks and vaccines, which unfortunately has become sort of a political debate as well. So I think that's what it is. There's a lot of parents that are interested in kind of having their voice heard.
I'm fully vaccinated. I will freely admit that. My entire family that's available is fully vaccinated. And so I think it's the right thing for me and my family. But I also recognize that everybody has to have their personal opinion and their personal choice.
When we look at the science of this disease, it's an airborne disease. And all of it leads to masks being an effective way to mitigate a lot of the disease.
In other districts, such as Randolph Township, the 6 candidates up for school board are at odds over the name of a holiday on their school calendar.
I'm sorry for voted for that decision, changing Columbus days. I didn't know the background of this.
A few months back, the Randolph School Board hoped to rename Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day on the school calendar.
Yeah, well, I thought that decision was appalling, to be quite honest with you.
I didn't understand personally why the school board wanted to change the way that the holidays were being demarked on the calendar. I thought that the board was correct in rescinding its changing of the calendar.
I have the same questions about why the board would ever have spent any energy at all on a question about the school calendar with COVID and all of the other issues that we're facing.
I never meant to act in a way that was malice or hurtful to people or a group of people. I listened to the feedback and the comments that the board received, and we could have definitely tabled the motion, and that is an option for board members. If there is an issue that we are not clear on or need more thought.
People make mistakes. Board members are volunteers at the end of the day.
At a time where school board meetings have gone out of control at times,
I could not give one damn what they're doing in other towns.
Other districts, such as Edison Township, are coming together on one central issue.
Edison's main problem is overcrowding, to be honest with you. We have almost 17,000 students. J.P. Stevens High School has over 2,700 children in it. And there's not room for 2,700 students.
Be it physical space, overcrowding in opportunities, academic, extracurricular, clubs, even getting to class on time or having enough time to eat lunch.
We contacted each of the 9 candidates running in Edison for an interview, but only heard back from Conway, Chinta, and Patel.
We started taking steps to work with the township to acquire lands and properties so that it helps resolve the overcrowding crisis long term. But we still have a lot of more work to do, and that is the reason I'm running for Edison Board of Education again.
Residents are still welcome to vote early, vote by mail, or cast their ballots on Election Day. For now, reporting for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Next on Jersey Matters.
Early voting in New Jersey. It's a new way of voting in the state, and coming up next, we'll explain everything you need to know.
"97-year-old Vito Perillo, the oldest mayor in the United States, faces 3 challengers as he runs for re-election in Tinton Falls. We had the World War II veteran on 4 years ago when he originally ran for mayor, back when he was a young man of 93. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. In this year's election, for the first time ever in New Jersey, you can vote in person before Election Day. Voting, as a matter of fact, is happening right now throughout the state. But the process is a little different and it can be confusing. Jersey Matters' Jennifer Marin is here to explain and hopefully make things a little easier for you.
Larry, each county, depending on its size, has a minimum of 3 to 10 polling locations for early voting. Now, the voting process looks a lot different this year, and it all starts with a new way of checking in. This year, for the first time, New Jersey voters can cast their ballots in person before Election Day. The 9-day early voting period was signed into law by Governor Phil Murphy back in March.
We put together early voting in about 6 months, right, when other states have rolled it out over a matter of years.
Union County Board of Elections Administrator Nicole Dorado, who was appointed to the state's early voting working committee, says the process took plenty of effort, but has so far been worth it.
We're doing very well. We've had over 3,100 voters vote so far in Union County. We have 7 early voting sites.
The early voting period began on October 23rd and will go through October 31st. During the 9-day period, people can cast their ballot at any voting site within their county. This differs from Election Day, in which you must vote at your designated polling location. Electronic poll books, which are new this year, make early voting possible.
Because of the electronic poll book, they will be able to access their specific ballot for their specific municipality and their races that they would be able to vote on. So no matter where you are in the county, you will get your ballot for your elections.
The new poll books are replacing the traditional way voters would sign in to vote. Here's how it all works.
So this is our electronic poll book. The poll worker is going to ask for the voter's name. The poll worker will find the voter. The voter will be asked to sign on the electronic poll book. The poll worker will then compare their signatures as they've always done and hit accept.
Next, the poll worker will enter a ballot card, which becomes the voter-verified paper audit trail. This completes the check-in process. The voter then takes their ballot card to a voting machine. Another poll worker will insert the voter's ballot card, which activates the machine.
The poll worker will close the curtains. The voter will just simply press on the candidate they wish to vote for. If they decide to change their mind, they press the box again, and it goes back to white. Then they're going to print their ballot card, and this is where the voter verifies that the voting machine properly recorded their selections. And then they're going to cast vote.
Now, we showed you how to use the ES&S machine for voting, but there's also another voting machine that's being used in New Jersey. Counties like Essex are using the Dominion voting machine. Their electronic poll book check-in is similar, but what follows isn't.
The poll book is hooked up to a ballot printer on demand. The printer prints out that voter's specific ballot.
The voter will then walk over to a privacy booth. And unlike the Union County touchscreen process, they'll fill out their ballot manually.
Then they walk their ballot over to the optical scan reader. They place their ballot into the optical scan reader to be tabulated, and their vote is cast.
According to Clerk DURKIN, there are two types of Dominion voting machines, and the other does use a similar touchscreen technology. According to Clerk Hamlin, the electronic poll books are updated in real time, which ensures that people can't vote twice. Early voting locations are open from at least 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Mondays through Saturdays, and from at least 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. If you haven't had a chance to vote early, you can still do so in person until October 31st. You also have the vote by mail option, and then of course on Election Day on November 2nd. For now, reporting in Newark for Jersey Matters, I'm Jennifer Merrick.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. Bloomfield College is one of the oldest colleges in the country, and it is in danger of closing. And the president of the college is going public with their valiant effort to save Bloomfield. Here is my interview with Dr. MARCHETA Evans, president of Bloomfield College. Dr. Evans, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's start with the financial problems that the college is having. How did you end up in this situation where you've got to go out and ask for help?
You know, it really, the largest, I guess, situation that happened was COVID-19. You know, we have been struggling with this virus, especially my community. Most of our students are from the Newark, Essex County region. Bloomfield College recruits most of its students from that, county. And the virus specifically impacted that community really, really hard. Bloomfield College is a predominantly Black institution and Hispanic serving institution, and we've been around for 153 years. You know, our median family income is just a little over $32,000. So when we think about the impact the pandemic has had on this community, my students have had to make a very important decision. Do I go to college or do I stay at home and support my family? Do I find a job? Do I help my siblings? And it really, really hit the students' community very, very, very hard. And so as a result of that, they didn't return back for post-secondary. And so we've had a decrease this year in almost 200 students, and that's significant for a small institution like Bloomfield College.
You made a bold decision to make this public. To make it a public cry for help. Yeah. And I say it's a bold decision because it could backfire, couldn't it? That you're putting out there that you might close down, and that would hurt attracting future students.
Most definitely. You know, it was a calculated risk, the timing right now. We're fine for this academic year. But it's really the recruitment for 22-23 that we're really kind of focused in on. We have, an endowment, we have cash reserves, all that would take us into 2023. But the concern is, can we make it all the way through 2023? And right now, we don't see that happening. If we continue to do what we're doing right now, we won't make it. We have to do something different. And a lot of institutions are going through this. We're not the only one, but I had promised my community a long time ago that I would be transparent, that I'll be honest in my communications, and the community needs to know that we're struggling. And I need all hands on deck. and I'm not afraid to ask for help. And that's really what this is, a call for action. I needed to get more strategic partners in higher education to take a look at us, right? So we did this national call, but we also need to get those that have transformational philanthropic dollars to look at contributing to us as we try to extend our runway to work on these partnerships. We can't do it alone.
And you're getting accolades for coming forward. People are calling it brave that you came forward, and it just shows that you really need help. So is that help coming? What's the response been so far?
It is. It has been phenomenal, the response. Now I just got to get it all the way to the finish line, right? To something signed on the dotted line. You know, I've had people from all over the United States actually call because of the Inside Higher Ed piece, wishing us luck. You know, they're struggling themselves. Hoping that we don't end up like some of the other institutions have in the past. You know, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm in the Chronicle of Higher Education and saying that we're open one week and close the next week. It's not fair. It's not fair to the students. It's not fair to the faculty and staff. And again, I just need all hands on deck and everybody knowing and rowing in the same direction.
How do they get a hold of you? Where do they go? To your website?
Yes, go to the website, BLOOMFIELD.EDU. And on that first page, it'll be a give button that's at the bottom right, I think it is, on the website. And you can put in your information and give your donation right there.
We got right into the weeds, and I started talking about the financial problems and the risk you were taking in doing this. What we haven't talked about is the importance of this college to New Jersey and to your community. And that might help you in getting people to understand what we would be losing. Could you explain that?
Right. As I mentioned, the institution has been around for 153 years. And I'm a mother of 6, okay? 5 daughters and 1 son. That's why I don't have much hair probably left. But anyway, having said that, you know, I've had some of my children that have gone to large institutions with 50 to 60,000 students, and some that have gone to institutions with only, you know, 1,200 students there. Each student needs something different. Each one of my children needed a different environment to help them come along. Most people don't know that Bloomfield College, half of my students are first generation college students, meaning that they're the first in their family. It's actually 52% to be, you know, precise. The first in their family to even think about going to post-secondary. Those students would not survive or navigate a large institution, and they need to be at an institution like Bloomfield that's very family oriented, helps them navigate higher education and how to be an advocate for themselves, and also to understand that their voice matters versus being swallowed up. I had one daughter who had a class with 500 students in there. You're just a number, right? Here at Bloomfield, we really consider ourselves a family, and that's what makes it unique. Beyond our quality faculty and staff that we have here, we have one of the top nursing programs in the state, one of the top game design programs in the state. You know, I can just go down the different list, but the thing that's really outstanding with our students is that we transform lives. You know, our students, because of the SES that they're in that lower 5th quintile, many of them, when they graduate, they're automatically moved to the 2nd quintile. Just Larry, 3 weeks ago now, we had 2 students that just got their degree in computer science get a job making 6 figures. Can you believe that? I didn't make that with my PhD, to be perfectly
No,
honest.
that's wonderful. You've done a wonderful job of talking about the university. You should consider sales if this doesn't work out for you. That was really excellent. I will say that I believe that every time an Institute of Higher Learning goes away, we lose a little bit of our future. And so we're pulling for you. I'm sure a lot of people out there are pulling for you to survive. And it sounds like there is some good news. So you please come back. When you have that good news and you're going to be able to tell us it's going to stick around for a while, we'd love to hear it. Dr. MARCHETA Evans, president of Bloomfield College. Next on Jersey Matters, we remember the storm named Sandy that wreaked havoc on New Jersey 9 years ago this week. That's next. Welcome back. Sandy was the most destructive and deadliest hurricane of the 2012 season. When it hit New Jersey, it changed from a hurricane to a superstorm, but it was just as destructive. Weatherman Nick Pittman remembers it all too well.
We've had some pretty significant and memorable weather events here in New Jersey over the years. Blizzards, tropical storms, derechos, tornadoes, you name it, it's happened. One storm, though, that leaves an indelible mark in our memories and on most of our lives, to be frank, will forever be Hurricane Sandy. This weekend marks the 9-year anniversary of a storm that changed who we are. Sandy was a unique storm in structure, track, and impact. The destruction left in her path was incredible, similar to that of the 1962 nor'easter. Retired National Weather Service meteorologist Jim Eberwein was up close and personal with Sandy on the forecasting front. He explains what his experience was like and what made Sandy such an anomaly.
Getting into this time of year, you have a cold source from the north, you had a blocking high, so it was like a dam in the atmosphere that prevented the storm from moving through. It came up and it made that turn to the left. The size of it was over 600 miles, the tropical storm force winds. The wave battering in the north part of New Jersey, 37-foot waves at the buoy, which is a record that stands even today. Over $60 billion in damage. Think of that, over $60 billion Category 1, and it produced a storm tide, not a storm surge, but a storm tide that was 15 feet all the way up the East River into New York. If that storm had hit the Gulf of Mexico, people would have yawned and said, oh boy, here's just Category 1, because they've had, what, 4s and 5s over the last couple of years. But to us up here, it was a new experience, and it taught us a lesson. It taught us a lesson that you've got to be prepared, you've got to listen to the right folks when things are coming along like this.
To get the perspective of someone who went through and was personally impacted by Sandy, I sat down with Leslie Jesperson, who is an Atlantic County resident and experienced the storm firsthand.
This scene, when we drove back into Chelsea Heights, which is where I lived, was like something from The Walking Dead. It was so eerie. You could, everybody's belongings, their furniture is out on the curbs. I mean, piles 10 feet high of just people's life possessions. It was probably 2 full weeks after everything before we were able to actually go to our house and see what had happened. And at that point, all the mold had set in. I remember my mom taking me to Walmart and having to buy all new underwear, socks, shoes, clothes, not just for me, but for my kids, all their toys, all that material stuff, as emotionally connected to it as we are, it can all be replaced, and no matter what, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay, because I did not feel like that. I did not feel like it was gonna be okay.
No one that was around for Sandy will ever forget what it did to our region. There were many bad things that came from the storm, but also many good things as our communities came together like never before to help out fellow neighbors in need. Sandy was a sobering reminder that strong storms can and will impact our area. It's not a question of if another Sandy will happen, but a matter of when. It is my job and the job of everybody in the meteorological community to educate and prepare you for when that day does come.
Nick Pittman, Jersey Matters weather forecaster. Next on Jersey Matters.
I'm Phil Andrews, and coming up on Jersey Matters, a visit to the paranormal.
Just in time for Halloween, Asbury Park's Berkeley Oceanfront Hotel is offering for a limited time the chance for visitors to attend their own funeral. With a burial simulator, guests can actually get in the casket and experience the last ride from the funeral home to the grave. And then you hear the dirt being shoveled on the coffin. It's all called The Haunting. And if you're into that kind of thing, you have to hurry. It runs through Halloween. Which brings us to this week's Jersey Jaunt. Phil Andrews takes us to New Jersey's Paranormal Museum, also in Asbury Park.
Mysteries from Beyond, the startling and frequently bizarre world of psychic phenomenon. And it can all be found here at the Paranormal Museum in Asbury Park.
We've been in Asbury Park for 13 years, and we are dedicated 100% to the study and the pursuit of the paranormal. It features ghost hunting equipment and titles pertaining to all aspects of paranormal subjects, from astral projection to zombies. And the Paranormal Museum, which occupies our second floor, has over 200 haunted artifacts. We like to say that we take the subject seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. If you come to visit Paranormal Tower, not only do we guarantee that you have a good experience, we're pretty sure you might have a paranormal experience as well.
And the reason for that has a lot to do with some of the past residents.
It did have a reputation for being haunted prior to us actually moving in here, and the addition of our haunted objects absolutely has ramped up or amped up the paranormal activity that we have here. You can be here pretty much any time, day or night, and hear things moving around upstairs when there's nobody else there.
Have you had guests tell you that they felt or have seen something?
This past Saturday, we actually had someone walk up the stairs, probably about 5 minutes into the tour, and just see something cross her path and just say, "Nope, I'm out," and just turned around and left. And she left her family here to continue because they wanted to continue the tour. But she ended up waiting down here, or actually outside, for about an hour and 15 minutes until they came down, but she didn't make it 10 minutes into the tour. Believe it or not, I'm actually very skeptical. And it doesn't mean that I don't believe in paranormal activity, it just means I don't believe every story that I hear. I take each case as it comes to me. But yes, I absolutely have seen things that I question what they are, and I can't easily explain them using kind of common explanations. And that's what it is. The paranormal is when you can't explain things using some kind of common explanation. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be right in assuming a paranormal explanation. It just means that you have to dig a little bit deeper. But yeah, I will tell you, I have walked through this place, lights on and lights off, and I've seen figures and shadows and things that have moved that don't correspond with the people who are in the building.
To find out more about how you can experience the phenomenon from beyond, visit their website at paranormalbooksnewjersey.com. In Asbury Park, for Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews.
Media bias has become so pervasive that I think we just accept it. We even encourage it by only watching the networks that allow us to be comfortably close-minded in our own bias. And when I talk about media bias, I'm not talking about the primetime cable news hosts who call themselves journalists, but sort of with a wink and a nod. Like Ben Affleck calling himself Batman. He's obviously not. And primetime cable news hosts calling themselves journalists are obviously not. But it's the TV anchor stars who bother me the most. The ones who pompously claim that they're unbiased, that they speak the truth with no agenda. Like CNN's Anderson Cooper, who maybe once was an unbiased journalist, but has willingly drifted to the dark side of partisan politics along with his network. Which is why it was so refreshing to see him exposed for what he is by another media star who has never claimed to be a journalist, but has a growing reputation for brutal honesty. Joe Rogan, a comedian and host of the immensely popular Joe Rogan Experience podcast with tens of millions of viewers. Joe Rogan was a national story a couple of months ago when he contracted COVID-19.
So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything.
Rogen went through one bad night with COVID symptoms and then improved. He was better within a week. But it was his mention of ivermectin that got the attention of CNN and Anderson Cooper.
One of those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses. CDC says there's no evidence it works on COVID. Its increased usage has only led to a substantial increase in overdoses after a push by some on the far right, citing vaccine misinformation.
And so there you have it. The unbiased Anderson Cooper says unless you are a far-right anti-vaxxer who wants to overdose, you should not be taking ivermectin, the horse dewormer. Now, it's fascinating to me that he didn't have Dr. Sanjay Gupta on the panel. I mean, after all, he's their medical reporting star at CNN. But Joe Rogan did have Dr. Sanjay Gupta on his podcast. And maybe this is why CNN didn't have him on the panel.
Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease. And as you say, it's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world?
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So,
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Yes, that's right. Ivermectin is not just a horse dewormer. In fact, it's not even best known for that. It's widely prescribed to humans by doctors around the world, as it was prescribed to Joe Rogan. And it not only fights bacterial infections, it also is known to stop the reproduction of viruses. The scientists who discovered ivermectin were awarded the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2015. It is true that ivermectin has not been proven to be effective against COVID-19, and it's also true that the CDC does not recommend the use of ivermectin to treat COVID-19 until it's been clinically studied. It was just announced that it's being studied right now by the National Institute of Health for use in treating COVID-19. But to say simply it's known as a horse dewormer and ignore its use and benefits to humans, well, that's
it's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a lie that they're conscious of. If they're lying about a comedian taking horse medication, what are they telling us about Russia? What are they telling us about Syria? Do you understand that that's why people get concerned about the veracity of the news?
That's exactly the point. Once you have been exposed of bias by omission or slanting the news because of your political leanings, or in the case of Anderson Cooper, to say the horse dewormer is only taken by right-wingers who spread anti-vaccine disinformation, then it's difficult to believe anything else you say. Like when you say you're an unbiased journalist. I'm Larry Mendte. We'll talk again soon.